And as you know, we're in a closing of our Reimagining Me and We. And we've spoken about how important the and is. It's not either me or we, nor is it a move from me to we. It is actually a recognition that me and we are inextricably linked, that we are in fact constantly engaged and impacting each other. The me and the we are in an ever-present dance and relationship. And our spirituality and our truth lands us in the we, in the paradox of it all. Now, in the 70s, I got into the environmental movement. I was actually originally going to be an environmental scientist. I was going to live in one of those fire towers up in the forest and not have to see people for 6 months out of the year. And then I decided to become a minister. But I loved learning about the environment and all of that and how important what's going on in the environment. And I was sad and angry to see how much we were degrading it and all of the ways in which we were not paying attention to that. And I remember in the 70s really learning about what can be done. And then I began to watch things change. I remember when Lake Erie was burning, and that was like mind-boggling how a lake burns. But there was so much trash in it, so much stuff floating around, and tires, and I don't know what all. It burned for months until they figured out how to put it out and decided to clean it up. And now Lake Erie is one of the cleanest of our Great Lakes, reimagining the possibility. And so I was hopeful. I was hopeful in the 70s. And if you'll recall, there was a declaration or a big study that came out in the U.S. Under Jimmy Carter that we were headed for catastrophic climate change if we didn't change what we were doing. That was in the 70s. And I've watched since then that being ignored by a large number of people and a large number of businesses and governments, and we are suffering the consequences of that today. And I was always frustrated and disappointed. Why didn't it catch on? Why weren't more people? Do you know that in the United States, 10% of the people recycle? 10%. In Europe, it's 95%. In Denmark, they not only recycle everything, but everywhere there are composting bins. So you compost your food waste publicly, and they use it to fertilize the public fields. They've got it down to a science. It's not rocket science. But somehow in America, we decided, I don't know, it's not important enough to us to do it. Only 10 to 15% of what's possible to be recycled in the number of people who recycle in the United States. It's amazing to me. And I remember hearing and reading an article, I would want to say maybe 10 years ago. And it was addressing exactly this fact. What happened? Because we were getting closer and closer to the edge of the climate change that we're now beginning to experience. And all of the things that we're experiencing were already predicted. And what wasn't happening? Why wasn't it happening? And the article I thought was so incredibly insightful. And their thesis was, because since the 70s, all that has ever been really done in terms of the environmental movement was doom and gloom. This is terrible. This is terrible. This is what's going to happen. It's terrible. We're going over a cliff. Oh my God, this is horrible, 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 horrible. And I don't know about you, but that gets to be tiring, that message, doesn't it? And I don't always know what to do about it. And what happened is people decided or simply chose to turn away. The doom and gloom was too much, and they didn't see the immediate consequences. It wasn't happening right in front of their very eyes. And so it was easy for people to turn away. Why? because there was nothing for them to turn toward. There was nothing for them to turn toward. And this is, of course, what we teach in the science of mind, that we actually have to be for things. We have to be moving toward things. And if we want things to change, we have to hold a powerful vision. We hold a powerful vision of our own lives, lives that are prosperous and healthy, lives that are filled with joy and meaningful contribution. We hold a vision for ourselves growing and expanding and expressing more of who we are. And we are working on holding that vision for humanity. Centers for Spiritual Living, the purpose statement for Centers for Spiritual Living is awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. Awakening humanity. That we wake up to the truth of our being. That we wake up to what's actually going on here. This isn't hell. We weren't kicked out of paradise and now have to suffer here and learn lessons and hope to God we are good enough to somehow be redeemed and saved. No, this is the universe delighting in itself. This is the expression of life, awakening to itself as you and me and all sentient beings everywhere. This is the place where life is getting to experience itself. Oh, not just only here, obviously, not just here on Earth, but all through the galaxies and the universe and the multiverses and wherever there is life. This is a joyous expression, the exuberance of life, evolving, growing, trying, becoming, doing, whatever it is that is an outpicturing of that love that is pouring itself into creation. All the ways that joy can be manifested. All the ways that we can see abundance flowing. All the ways of all the things that we imagine in that one perfect life is being expressed here. And for us to wake up to this truth and to wake up to our part in it and to wake up that we are now engaged. We're now engaged in the process. Futurists have said the moment that we dropped the atom bomb, we took on the role of the creator, because we can both create life and destroy it here on the planet. And we have to wake up to that fact, and to wake up to who we are, what we can do, what we can be. And of course, we have to wake up to this fact that we are individuals and we are having a collective experience, and that this tension is the constant tension that is going on. It's the constant tension that we are living in, as we've talked about over these last 3 weeks, and finding a place to stand where the me isn't run over by the we, and the we isn't diminished by the me, but there's a place, a vision, a powerful opportunity for us to stand in that place where we recognize that these two things are not mutually exclusive. But this requires us to stand in a transformational place. It requires us to move beyond a transactional way of being in the world. The transaction that we have at our work, I'm going to do my job, that's good. The transaction that we have at the store, I'm going to get what I want. I don't care what it costs or how it impacts. The transactions that we see in the political arena, in the corporate arena, I'll get mine, you get yours. But to move to the transformational way of being in the world, which requires that we recognize that the me and the we are the same. The me is a part of all, the we is a part of all the me's smooshed together. And not every me has the same idea. And yet, there's a possibility that A larger life is moving us forward. A larger awakening is happening. You all have heard me talk over this last month about the fact that both my parents grew up in Germany. During the war, they were adolescents, they were teenagers. They got to watch it from that point of view, and I got to grow up on those stories. And there is a Methodist pastor who has been quoted a million times in a million different ways. After World War II, he was first a Nazi sympathizer, and then when he realized what was really going on, he disavowed all of that. Ultimately, he had to confront his own anti-Semitic, I can't say the word, sorry. Somebody will say it for me. Thank you, thank you. You've probably heard this, and you've heard this in lots of different iterations. First of all, because he himself said it a number of different ways, and second of all, because it applies in so many different ways. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. 6 million Jews were gassed in the Holocaust. A total of 12 million people lost their lives. Intellectuals, academics, LGBTQ people, people with disabilities, the gypsies who were dark-skinned, anybody who didn't look right, act right, live right, conform to the norm. I've heard this said, they came for the gays and I didn't speak out. And they came for the transgender and I didn't speak out. They came for the African Americans and I didn't speak out. And then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me. I've heard it said, they came for the communists and I didn't speak out because I was not a communist. They came for the ecologists and I did not speak out because I was not an ecologist. I've heard this in so many different ways and places, iterated. All of those people, all of the people who have been marginalized or have been made wrong or have been outside of what appears to be the machine of our economy and our politics. And if we don't speak out, who will be left when they come for us? Now they're coming for 50% of the population, women. Actually, they've come for women and are going to continue to do so. And how do we speak out, right? We cannot fall into the trap. This is what I've been telling myself for the last 2 days. We cannot fall into the trap that happened to the environmental movement. Oh my God, look at them. They need to stop doing it. They're evil and wrong. If this doesn't happen, if this doesn't get better, this world is going to hell in a handbasket. That is not the message. And I have been working with my own self about that over these last 2 days. Where do we stand? The other thing that's really powerful to notice in this me and we conversation is it has come out of deep ecofeminism and the Black Lives Movement and a number of other movements around poverty and homelessness and the environment, in that there is this profound intersectionality that is happening. It's no longer just one group. It's not just the immigrants, and it's not just blacks, and it's not just. That's the we. That's the we that we are a part of. That's the we that has to find a voice. But it can't be the voice that is the same as the them, right? As I told you before, I've been reading this book, The Four Pivots. It's really quite remarkable. And he articulates in there beautifully this idea that if we take on the same way of being in the world, that those people whom we are unhappy with, mad at, or think are not doing the right thing, if we take on the same way of being, the same way of doing, the same way of behaving, do you see, oppressor is just traded for another oppressor. And I'm finding that hard right now. And so we get to have our feelings, right? You get to have your feelings, I get to have my feelings. We get to have our feelings. We are not trying to not have our feelings. This does not work when we're doing this work. We have to have our feelings. We have to look in the mirror in our own selves, reflect on our own place. Where are we coming from? What's being activated within us? Where are we willing to stand? What are we afraid of? All of that has to be confronted over and over and over and over again. Because I've seen it in myself and I've seen it in a lot of spiritual people. The two places that I see people go is either to withdrawing apathy or to vilifying right back, dehumanizing right back. And neither of those places are the spiritual place to stand. Sometimes in the last 2 days, all I could do was tell myself that. I didn't necessarily feel it. But that's okay. That's maybe where we start. In any one of these movements, any one of these moments. What we are we going to be? What we are we going to be a part of? A woman named Sherilyn Hill, she writes this: remember that we have never seen the America we've been fighting for, so no need to be nostalgic. Right on the other side of the unraveling is opportunity. If we keep fighting no matter what, take care of ourselves and each other, stay strategic and principled, and use all our power. All our power. And part of our power is to hold the vision. Part of our power is to not give up on it, to not say, oh, here we are again. Once again, it's not working. Once again, we've rolled back the clock 50 years. Once again, right? But to continually move ourselves into that place where we say, no, from this place I will not be moved. I will not be moved from my vision of a world that works for everyone and a life that works for me. I will not be moved from that. I will not give it up. I will not give it over. And I will not pretend that that's not where I stand. I will speak about that. And I don't have to do that and fight with you, the collective you, right? Not you, here. That's the practice. That's the practice. In the Four Pivots, he talks about, are we willing to move into a transformational way of looking at how we are going to move the ball forward, how we are going to live through the changes, how we are going to continue to insist on our vision. Ernest Holmes says this: what we now experience, we may cease experiencing if we have the will and the imagination to set our vision in an opposite direction and hold it there. It is the office of the imagination to set the vision. The will should hold it in place until the creative genius of the inner life transforms the image of limitation and transmutes it into liberty under law. To keep imagining What does a world that works for everyone look like? To keep imagining that there is a container that's large enough for differing points of view, differing ways of being, differing ideas about how life is and what's important, but it is in a container of love, of respect, of engagement. I've heard people say, well, that's just utopia. No, that's the vision. What does it look like? I have no idea. How are we going to get there? That's not my job. That's the universe's job. It's the job of the law of cause and effect to get us to our vision. Will it happen in my lifetime? Right now, I'm not so sure. But I've planted a tree. Actually, I've planted more than one tree. And some of those trees that I have planted, personally planted, will not grow to their maturity in my lifetime. There's a wonderful phrase from the Chinese tradition that says, so when do you plant a tree if you are not going to see its fruition? And the answer is today. You plant it today. You don't not plant it just because you're not going to see the end result. Our vision is so big and so powerful. Who knows what has to happen along the way? What is part of the unfolding and the growing of us to become that place where we are engaged in this unfolding from vision, from transformation. I will confess that it is only in doing this talk and in standing here with you today that I begin to have a glimmer of returning to that space in my own heart and mind. Which is why we're in community together. Which is why we lift each other up. Which is why we stand in this place, right? It's the office of the imagination to set the vision. The will should hold it in place. And sometimes when our own individual will is a little shaky, right, we lean into each other. And when it's my will that is shaky, I can lean into being part of this community. When your will is shaky, you can lean into it so that we hold it steady. We hold it steady on the vision that our imaginations have created. And we have to hold it steady long enough that the transformation can, in fact, take place. So, what is that vision? Well, we all have our ideas about it. We all have a personal engagement with it. We all have a way in which we've thought about it. And the Centers for Spiritual Living has written it down. So those of you who are on campus, you received a truncated, beautiful truncated version of the Centers for Spiritual Living vision. You received it as a piece of paper. And for those of you online, you are receiving a link in the chat so that you can download this rendition of the global vision. I'm going to read you the full text of the global vision. What I'm going to invite you to do is I'm going to invite you to let your imagination run wild. To let your imagination run wild on the words, right? Because it is the imagination that gives fire and color and texture to the vision. We envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God, of the one infinite reality. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her or their highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers his, her, or their own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. We envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. A world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement, and justice. We envision a world in which resources are valued, cared for, and grown, and where there is a generous and continuous sharing of these resources. We envision a worldwide culture in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or debts, is the norm. We envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all creation. To hold a powerful vision. Maybe that vision is too big or too all-inclusive for us to wrap our imaginations around the whole thing. So pick one or two or three that really resonate with you, the ones that really speak to you, that fire up your imagination, where your imagination has already been playing, and hold that vision. Stand firm in that vision. Once again, I would say, feel the feelings. It's important. There's a reason why we're angry or sad or feel brokenhearted. Something has been broken. But it is through the brokenness of our hearts that the light can shine. It's not patching the heart back up again. It's not girding the loins. It's not putting up the shield. It's letting the light out. Letting the love out to the best of our ability. And to stand for the vision from which we shall not be moved. What does that look like? Who knows? But the truth is, each one of us can do something. And together we can do so much more. Together here in this community or any other together that you find yourself with your imagination being drawn to, that your will is willing to focus on, to be connected with. There's so much more then that we can do. And it is so clear that our oneness, which we have been affirming now for countless years, not only in the Science of Mind, not only at Centers for Spiritual Living, but in so many, many ways and places across the globe, oneness has become a powerful rallying cry. And one of the ways that oneness is showing up is us being able to see this intersectionality that is showing up, that we must be for each other's needs, the places where there are others who find themselves in the situation that I have found myself in over this last weekend. Do you see? That is the oneness that we are called to link arms in solidarity with each other. Wherever it is that you feel that you don't fit or it's not actually working for you. Do you see? Then the me that we are gets supported by the we, whether we're working for African American justice, or whether we're working for LGBTQ or women or children or the environment or poverty or the wealth gap or medical support, all the countless ways that we see that the we needs us, and we need the we. Ernest Holmes says, this is my affirmation today and yesterday. Principle is not bound by precedent, and our good is not limited or conditioned by any good that has ever been manifest. We should confidently expect greater good than we have ever experienced or than we have ever known of anyone experiencing. Principle is not bound by precedent, and it is a trajectory of life itself, to be for life. And if I can remember that, then I don't have to be afraid. I can stand in my trust and work for that vision. Speak it, live it to the best of my ability, be it in every way that I know how. I hope that you will continue to join me.